So we are, guys, halfway through the semis for the Carabao Cup. 1-0 win against Chelsea. I'll take it. Not the best result we could have hoped for. I was hoping for more of like a 2-0. I was definitely glad they didn't score, although, as I understand it, away goals don't matter anyway. But I was still quite happy not to see them score. They had a couple of chances. But it still seems like they can't hit a barn door from 10 paces at the moment, and I'm hoping I'm not going to live to regret to say that. For me, it wasn't a great performance. It wasn't our best performance against Chelsea even, but we still come away with a 1-0 win. So a couple of views on the game itself. Gazzaniga, I thought, had a decent game. Pulled off a couple of really good saves. Certainly the one that ricocheted off of Rose was a good one to shout out. There was a little bit of debate about him at the start because obviously Hugo being the number one and everything and keeping faith. But I do think that Poch likes to keep faith with players, and I think he has faith in every player that he's got. I think if he's not got faith in them, you don't get in. Hence the reason why Janssen doesn't seem to have a chance of getting back into the team. And Josh Onomo, who seems to, everyone raves about, but doesn't seem to get any look in with where Poch is concerned. So I think it's about how he feels about you and how he feels about your attitude. So I think he's got total faith in Gazzaniga. So it was, I wasn't concerned about him being in goal. Clean sheet. Another win under his belt, 9 games, 9 wins. That's a decent omen. There was a little bit going on around me, which was quite funny actually, because I don't know whether it was a Pochettino tactic not to kick the ball longer and to build from the back and so on. But it did get rather frustrating, certainly for a lot of the fans sitting near me, should I say standing near me. Who kept calling for him, kick it long. Sanchez kept playing it square ball back to him, that he then played off to Alderweireld, which then came back to him, which then came back to Sanchez, which eventually went to Trippier. But, whilst we perceived there to be danger, because we're Tottenham fans, from a team's point of view, there didn't seem to be any danger. They didn't feel like they were under any kind of pressure. And so they carried on. I did feel that Trippier played a lot deeper in this game than he normally does. He's good at going forward and not great at defending. That's generally what fans will say about him, certainly the ones I talk to. But this was probably one of his better games in terms of his defending. A couple of people I've seen called him out as their man of the match. So he did have a far better defensive display, albeit not a great offensive display. Didn't get enough going on, didn't move as quick as I would have liked him to. The other one for me, and it's kind of getting a bit of an issue now where I'm having to say it all the time, Sissoko, the guy's been a beast over the last few months, and I honestly don't know what's created that, whether that's just his confidence, whether that's his belief, whether it's because he's had a run in the team, I don't know, whether it's his positioning, the position he's playing, but he has been absolutely fantastic. Some of the tackles that he put in were, excellent. It's very difficult to get him off the ball. He was moving forward and doing very well. So some decent passing from him. So I thought he was really good. And the other shout out, I guess, to a certain extent, Danny Rose, although he looked like he took a big knock at the end, so I'm hoping that he's okay, but he had a really good game. I did see someone on Facebook had written that he was shit. Mate, whoever that was, I don't know what game you were watching, but for me, I thought he was really good. Full of running, a lot of defending to do. He was on it the whole time, closing people down. And the tackle at the end, loved it. Loved it. That got them up on their feet singing his name. I really loved it. So yeah, I overall, not the best performance that we've seen out of a Spurs team, but to come away with a 1-0 against them, I'm happy with that. Is it going to be enough? Time will tell. We'll see what happens at the next game. It'll be interesting to see how we play. I felt that Sonny didn't have his best games. He started off well, but he seemed to drift out of the game a little bit, and I don't know why that was, and maybe that would have been a better time to maybe bring on Llorente. I know he's not everyone's favourite, but he does do something different in the fact that he's a bit bigger, and he heads and he gets in the way and he holds it up and that kind of stuff. So maybe a change of how we were playing at them might have worked, because it felt a little bit like Wolves. It was all huff and puff and nothing really coming off. Definite penalty for me. I was at the wrong end of the pitch, but having seen it afterwards, yeah, definite pen. Was he offside? Don't know. I tend to find that it's only really offside if the referee gives it as an offside, and then they take a free kick from there. If he didn't and they didn't, then it wasn't. So why are we debating it? These things happen. Football is football. If it wasn't for mistakes or whatever, even if it was a mistake, then it is what it is. There are plenty of them that go the other way against you. So wipe your mouth, move on. What's the problem? So I'm sorry, you bitter Chelsea fans. You'll just have to suck it up, Buttercup. So overall, really good to get the result. Referee poor, I felt. It seemed really one-sided. Whether that's just my opinion of it because of supporting Spurs, I don't know. But it did seem very much like as soon as you touched the Chelsea player, they were on the floor rolling around and they got a free kick. But Tottenham players didn't get that level of support, I guess. So I don't know what anyone else thinks about that. But it's that it's a moot point. It's the game's over. And again, the other one I would kind of point out was the one where Lamela was 1-on-1. I cannot for the life of me think what he did wrong there. Both players were trying to get past each other to get the ball there shoulder to shoulder, and they're trying to get past each other. The Chelsea boy's got his arm across him. He's pulling his arm away. What's wrong with that? You're playing in the semi-final trying to get it, and that would have sealed the deal. I don't think there'd have been any coming back from that. I think a 2-0 win would have been enough for us. I would like to mention atmosphere. In my last video, the one I did just before the game, I did say that I felt that there would be a far better atmosphere for this game than there was for Wolves. And yeah, absolutely and definitely, it was a far better atmosphere. Far fewer tourists around, or if they were tourists that supported the team. There was far more singing, far more jumping about, and so on and so forth. It was really good to see. It felt far better. I didn't hear any stuff from the Chelsea fans, anti-Semitic stuff or anything like that, which was pleasing. A friend of mine, Billy, who sat quite near the away fans, said that he didn't hear any of it. He said they were actually fairly quiet the whole game, and I know they had their own stewards there. Tottenham fans were really singing. There was a reduced amount of Yid Army chants and that kind of stuff, which to a certain extent was quite pleasing given the focus that had been put on it by the media and the old bill and all that. But I did notice at one point, I think one of the guys who stood near me decided that it was a good idea to shout out Chelsea Rent Boys. He did it really loudly at a point where it was fairly quiet, and that did get a little bit of attention from the stewards, who, I don't know whether he called him or not, but CCTV security guy came along with his camera and he sat down right in front of us, and he was kind of looking to see what he could see if he could spot a person and all the rest of it. So I think that's something to bear in mind, something to be a little bit careful about. it's classed as homophobia, I understand. I'm not a big fan of that anyway. You know, Chelsea Red Boys and all that. You know, I'm not a big fan of that chant and stuff. You know, I'd rather just call them chavs and that kind of stuff. But and I think the other thing with Alonso getting the old murderer stuff, I was a bit. I'm not sure that's going to go down very well. You might get yourself in a little bit of trouble with that. But all in all, it went off fairly well. Obviously, we've now got the bad news of, although not unexpected, that the February games will be played in at Wembley. I think the bigger disappointment is that the Dortmund Champions League game's going to be played there. I'm sure that means we've got to play all our Champions League games there now. But you know, I might be wrong. I'm no expert. So that's a real disappointment. So we'll just have to see where it takes us. But it's interesting that decision comes out straight after a win, and we're starting to move on, which is a little bit like what they did last time. And I kind of expect that was what was going to happen. But as I say, disappointed about that. And I do fear for the Watford and Leicester games in terms of attendances and certainly atmosphere. Newcastle might be a little bit better because obviously it being Newcastle, they do bring a lot of fans down, and it's probably a little bit more of an attractive game. Watford being in midweek, that's not gonna help, and not gonna help the fact that they're Watford, even though they have been playing fairly well. I mean, I might be wrong. Champions League, I think, will be okay. You know, I think there'll be a lot of fans up for that, just to see where we get to. But as I say, overall, I don't think we can complain too much, certainly about the game. We look forward to the next game against them, and in the meantime, we've got our good old friends Manchester United coming to town, and their wonder manager, Mr. Solskjaer. So we'll see where that goes. If we give them a stuffing, is that going to mean that they're going to start asking for Pochettino again? Although personally, I don't think he ever really wants to go there. But you know, that's another video. So I think it'll be a decent atmosphere again. South Dorset Spurs, who I travel up with, have 2 minibuses going. About 20 odd people going up, which is really good. So I think there'll be a big crowd there. Looking at the map on the website, it shows that the game is a sellout. So we'll see. Hopefully there'll be a decent atmosphere. We owe them one, so let's hope that we can keep our good run going and keep the results going on. So I guess that's it from me. I just wanted to say that the atmosphere was better, and I was pleased to see that. Like I say, be interested to see what this weekend's like, and then moving forward into February. I'm not going to talk too much about the stadium situation, because I think everyone's done it to death. Disappointing, but it is what it is. We are where we are, and when we get in there, and we're there forever. So, you know, we'll just have to accept it. It is what it is. So I'll leave you with those thoughts, and I will just say at the end of all of that, up the Spurs.